Hello, friends. Thank you so much for dropping by. To anyone who's new to this channel, just a fair warning: this is not a typical video for this channel, and not necessarily representative of um, the teachings of Bruno Groening. This is a very personal, in a sense, very intimate sharing of my own. Wonderful experiences and huge mistakes that I made on this path, and challenges, actually. So, with that said, let's just take a minute and separate ourselves from everything not good. The worries of the day, the worries of the future. Let's hand them over to God or Bruno. Let's take on trust. Trust in our friend Bruno Groening, or Jesus. Faith in the unlimited power of God, and trusting in Bruno or Christ to connect us to that and to walk along with us on the path. And trust in them as beings who have truly overcome evil, and hence can lead us on the path of victory over all evil. And then having the intention, the will to receive the good divine energy. Let's take that in for a moment. Taking in the good. So, welcome. I invite people to continue tuning in as I share. So, so this is part 2. Where I left off last time was I met this woman who I'm calling Lynn, who I thought was enlightened, and Lynn had a psychic vision of Mother Mary tying our heart chakras together. And I interpreted that as meaning, this is my soulmate. We're destined to be together. Hey, David, thank you, brother. And I didn't check in and discern. I just hopped right into the relationship, like full force. A few other background pieces is I used to be such a hardcore romantic, and I kind of just had to let it go because my mental, emotional, and physical health was such a mess. So I just kind of had put that to a side. But over the years, this idea of a spiritual partnership had grown really powerful within me. It was actually really my strongest desire, was for a spiritual partnership. And then it had evolved even more to, well, what if of wanting, this is hard to share, but wanting a partner who was actually enlightened. It was a fantasy, not so much in the sexual sense, though maybe there was a little bit of that. It was more like a heart and soul fantasy, a yearning. Once again, I didn't check in with God Like, hey, is that a good desire? Is that a good goal? And so, so this person shows up and is having psychic visions, claims to be had a permanent shift of consciousness out of all suffering. And then a month or two before I met her, I'd heard this voice that I thought was Bruno Groening saying that reconnecting to this desire for spiritual partnership would be your greatest healing. And I was just utterly convinced it was Bruno Groening, and I never checked in. And so I just hopped right into this relationship. And one of the things I didn't share in my first video is I had become a community leader in the Bruno Groening Circle of Friends. I was just on fire. I was had so many healings. I was just so committed. My faith was so strong. So I was starting to be active in sharing this with others. So some way, somehow, I let the belief enter that this relationship with Lynn was more important than my relationship with Bruno, and more important than my path with Bruno. I kind of had the delusional belief, everything, my whole life, including my path with Bruno Groening, has prepared me for this. Once again, I didn't check my thinking. But you see, at this point, it's just 4 thoughts that led me to this place of very unbalanced approach to a relationship, and it just got wackier. Within a very short time, I realized it was unhealthy. Before I go to that, so she wasn't into Bruno. She was really into Jesus. And I just, from just a place of utter delusion, thought once again, like, this relationship is the most important thing. So I need to, make everything, I need to make this relationship work. So obviously I had some unhealed codependence. And so as you can see, at this point, we're at about 5 thoughts, right? But those 5 thoughts led me to, as you'll see by the end of this series, led me to a very dark place. So I hope if you take nothing else away from this sharing, is to take very seriously what Bruno Groening said about checking every thought. Now, not to skip ahead to the end, but I'll just give you some foreshadowing. A lot of bad shit is going to happen. A lot of bad stuff happened because of these decisions. A lot. And I'm utterly convinced that what Bruno Groening said, that only things that serve as a lesson are allowed to happen. I wish I had taken a gentler path towards these lessons. And this is the path I unconsciously chose, and yet I trust that there's a divine order to it. And my hope is to save people some time and some of the suffering I went through. So I started to drift away from Bruno Groening. I gave notice that I didn't want to be a community leader anymore, that I was into Jesus now. And the relationship just got wackier and wackier. I'm not going to go into all of the details, but it was very unhealthy. It had an unhealthy foundation. How could it not be healthy? I didn't know this person at all. I was just kind of basing everything on a psychic vision they had. And once again, Bruno Groening said, all of your problems, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, all of your problems come from listening to other people instead of listening to God. Boy, did I find out the truth of that. It'd be one thing if I had had a psychic vision of Mother Mary tying our heart chakras together, but I was going based on her, her vision. And really, that's what religion is. I visit churches and temples of all flavors and varieties, and I get a lot of benefit from the institution of religion, and I have a lot of respect for it. And I've come to an understanding of what it is. Religion is based on the idea of something outside of yourself, whether it be a scripture, an organization, a preacher, a set of rules that you're supposed to follow instead of following God. So I quickly realized the relationship was not healthy, but I still didn't check that thought. I still thought we were destined to be together. So I kept trying to work things out. And even though it was very apparent that she was not enlightened, and that this was not a healthy relationship. So let's sit, not so much with my story, although you're welcome to, but more the lesson of taking someone else's revelation without checking in with yourself. And this is tricky because, for example, the teachings of Bruno Groening, they're words that Bruno Groening spoke. What differentiates Bruno from really every other spiritual teacher I've ever heard of, I think I've heard of one who said something, who would occasionally say something similar. And that is, Bruno said, find out for yourself. Don't believe me. Don't be gullible. And that's what I was. I was gullible. And it cost me. And so let's really, what does it mean to listen to God? Well, the German word, I forget the German word, but it actually means to give your full attention to. When Bruno said listen to God, he didn't say listen, he didn't speak English. He was using a German word that means really focus on. So let's really focus on the divine. Let's take in the good with our full attention. And really make the commitment to begin checking inside ourselves everything, every spiritual belief, everything Bruno Groening said, every value we have. Every plan, every dream, making the commitment to bring all of it in alignment with God. So you don't have to go down the road I did. So I started to become unwell. Not only was I cut off from the teachings of the practice, living the teachings of Bruno Groening, but I wasn't really focusing on him as my helper. I was kind of making the relationship my higher power, which is a very common and very bad human habit, very harmful human habit to look to relationship to be our healer, or to be our God, really, to be our source of happiness, our meaning. That's not to say relationships can't contribute happiness and meaning, but there's only one thing I've learned the hard way. There's only one thing, and that is God, that can really bring true happiness. So and then the relationship was psychologically, it was just so unhealthy on so many levels. And it tied into things from my childhood. So things like painful things from my childhood were being brought up and not resolved. and so at a certain point, I ended the relationship, and I felt dead. I felt truly dead. I had separated myself from Bruno Groening and his teachings. I had lost and she and I fell so hard in love. Like, romantic love is truly the ultimate drug. I was walking around high as a kite and mistaking it for something spiritual. And the other piece is that she believed in something called twin flames. The idea of a twin flame is that, that God makes a soul and then separates that soul into two parts. And those two parts incarnate in different bodies. And then the goal of life is to find each other so you can unite and become whole. So there's different variations on this belief. She held the belief that you only have one twin flame. In essence, that your only source of happiness is a relationship, finding this person and having a healthy relationship. It's the most insane spiritual idea I've ever heard. And I thought it was nonsense, but she kept talking about it, and eventually I believed it. So, friends, I'd cut myself off from Bruno Groening, though I know he was still, now I know he was still with me, but then I didn't know that. And I thought I'd lost my one chance at happiness, my one chance at enlightenment, this crazy twin flame idea. To say I was devastated didn't even come close. And so once again, I took in an idea and I didn't check it out. And in this case, I took in in my view, one of the most dangerous spiritual ideas there is: twin flames. This particular variation on twin flames, that again, I don't even want to talk about it anymore. I consider it one of the highest delusions. So I don't want to give it any more airtime. The thing is, one of the things I've learned through all this is, in the spiritual marketplace, and in the 21st century, it is a marketplace. Make no mistake about it. 99 point, in the Western world, I can't speak, I visited India, but there may be it may be a little bit different in India or some Eastern countries, but in the West, make no mistake about it, 99.9% of all spiritual activities are a for-profit business. It's horrifying. The books and the workshops and the seminars. I'm not saying all books and workshops and seminars are evil or completely wrong. They are business, however. And pure spirituality and for-profit business, they cannot overlap. I've realized this now. Why? Because it's like charging someone for air. Because pure spirituality is about God, and it's about freedom. And anyone who found freedom, they would pay people for the opportunity to give freedom away. So I still, work with different holistic practitioners from time to time. I still do a workshop. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying they're not. You can't buy enlightenment. You can't buy salvation. You can buy support, and you can buy spiritual. You can buy sort of not help in the sense that Bruno Groening spoke of help, but you can buy sort of spiritual support in a sense, but not the kind that fully liberates. So there I was. Actually, let's pause there and let's take in the pure and the free, the pure divine energy, the ultimate renewable energy source. The thing is certain ideas are sticky. Even after I a little background noise. One more. There we go. Intellectually, I didn't believe she was my twin flame, but or to believe in once we broke up, but on some visceral level, on a deep level, it took me almost 3 years after the relationship ended to let go, maybe 2.5 years, to let go of that idea. So we need to guard our minds like our life depends on it, because they really do. The thoughts we take in, they determine everything. They truly do. And so I asked myself, why, is this what I'm doing right now, this raw sharing of my journey? I asked myself, is it a good thing? Why am I doing it? Well, is it a good thing? I guess we'll see. It feels right to me. Why am I doing it? Because I don't feel I can be in integrity and continue to teach without sharing my full experience. And I think that'll become a little more apparent as we go along, what I'm talking about. So that therein lies episode 3. And so Bruno Groening called us to investigate everything, every thought, every action. And what I've realized is that's very good advice. And Bruno Groening pointed out that evil will constantly attack a person and constantly try and pull them off the good path. And I tip my hat to evil. I don't bow before it, but I've come to respect the power of evil, because it was the perfect trap, and I fell for it, but it was the perfectly designed trap for me And simultaneously, I do bow before God, because despite all the suffering and all the misery I've been through, and we've just scratched the surface, it all serves the good, and it all serves learning. It's almost as if God allows free will. God allows us to act insanely. Let's face it, what I did was insane. There's no other way to describe it. So let's just backtrack a moment. So it took me like 18 years. The depression started in 1991, and it plus addictions, and it took me 18 years to get balanced. And then I found the teachings of Bruno Groening, and yes, I had health issues because of the way I was found in balance. But regardless, I finally found balance, and then through the teachings of Bruno Groening, I found freedom from the need for medication, freedom from my suffering. I found happiness and joy, and I was sharing this with others. I found Bruno Groening. I mean, Bruno Groening. I mean, is there anything in the history of this world other than Jesus? Has there ever been anything on this planet like Bruno Groening? Such a pure soul, such just absolute surrender, unwillingness to let a religion be formed around him. Just a whole life devoted to helping. And what a transmitter of the energy he was. So I'd found Bruno Groening, and I had such a tight relationship with him. And I had unhealed things from my past, codependence, romance addiction, this fantasy of a spiritual relationship, fantasy of a relationship with an enlightened person. So I took on some insane thoughts, because that's what evil, and the way I look at it is evil is just nothing but insanity. It just wants to destroy everything beautiful and good. That's all evil is it just wants to destroy everything beautiful and good. And that's insane. And I took in insane thoughts, and then I made insane choices. And again, I tip my hat to, Bruno said evil slithers and slinks and looks for a way in. Well, boy, did it find it with me. And it was, again, unhealed, unresolved things from the past. And Bruno Groening said the good will prevail. And so by the end of this sharing and series, we'll see if all of these really horrible, and we haven't even gotten into the horrible yet. By horrible, I mean extremely painful. Things that happened to me. Serve the good. And if the good will prevail, I think it will. Thank you so much for joining in. I wish you all deep, deep reflection on your life, on your values, on choices. Really, values is where I came up short. I didn't put God first. And I paid the price. Thank you so much for joining in. Take care. Much love.